Hey AfterBuzzers, we're talking New Girl episode 12 of season 6, The Cubicle, so stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello everybody, we are back to talk about episode 12, The Cubicle of New Girl. We are so excited, we've got a lot to talk about this episode, but before we get into it, I'm your host, Nasta. You can find me on Twitter at Nasta and on Instagram at Girl. And Tessa Cavel, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Tessa_Cavel.
Alrighty, so this episode was pretty exciting. We saw a lot of relationships kind of get to a point where we didn't really know where it was going to go, kind of a point where they're fighting against nothing, and Jess is pushing the label once again. Mm-hmm. Really quick, right off the bat, I think we should talk about Cece and Schmidt and their relationship.
Yes, I really want to.
So this whole episode, we see Schmidt really supporting everything that she's doing, talking about, like, he made a cubicle for them in the kitchen, and they're still working on getting the house. So we did see he makes her own office, which was gorgeous, and we finally got to see progress in the house. How excited are you about there's progress in the house?
I am so excited, one, because I thought it looked really good, but it was just so good to see it again. Mm-hmm. And going back to the whole Schmidt and Cece thing, I have really realized in this last episode that Schmidt is so incredibly supportive of Cece, and I don't really see it the opposite way, which I find really interesting. I mean, he is always there by her side. At this point, he's like helping maintain her clients. He's got her cubicle. He's made her an office. I just think it's really interesting to see how that's going to progress later into their relationship. Mm-hmm. Maybe like who's going to stay at home if they have children? Will they both work? Because Schmidt is just so incredibly supportive of Cece. I just find it very, like, interesting in their dynamic.
I totally agree on that because I was, like, I forget where I was seeing things, but I kept seeing things on social media about New Girl, and it kind of got brought up of the douchebag jar, which I completely forgot about.
Yes.
And I was just using that as, you know what, how much maturity we've seen in Schmidt since they've gotten married. He's really kind of let that, like, douchebaggy wall fall down, and he's really opened up and let Cece in and has been totally supportive, just like what you were saying. Mm-hmm. So I find it really interesting that I forgot he had a job until this episode.
Me too. He like called his boss and I was like, oh yeah, he works. I think in this like weird like mindset I've had, he just like doesn't work anymore, and like Cece doesn't work. It's like this weird like, yeah, she's at the bar and like she has the modeling thing, but it's never taken seriously.
Yeah.
So it's just really interesting to like have that brought back up again.
No, totally. And you know, Schmidt's job thing, I thought that there was some sort of falling through that they had, so I thought maybe he didn't work there anymore and we hadn't brought it back into that again. And also with the whole Cece's jobs always changing, I didn't think that would actually like progress. Like I thought when they talked about her being a manager in the job, that was it. We wouldn't hear about it again. So I was pretty shocked.
Agree.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked that they brought that back in. And I mean, it was good to see.
Yeah,
it's good to see her be passionate about something and really want to get it going. But I think you're completely right. It's almost like we're seeing more of Schmidt be intense about it, which gets Cece feeling intense about her career as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, especially in that way, because Schmidt's always intense, but it's just really interesting because I don't think we've ever seen him intense in this area.
No.
I mean, I would never see him now from like the first season. Like that Schmidt and this Schmidt are just so different.
Completely
I think
different.
This episode I like finally realized. I was like, whoa, like wait a minute. Like yeah, we've seen it gradually change, but I mean, he's changed a lot.
A lot. And just even in the whole aspect of their relationship as a whole, because at first it was kind of like it was a push and pull, and it was just kind of you were confused, and then finally when they got married it was like, oh, this is finally happening. Mm-hmm. But so far we've seen kind of Cece be the dominant character, and she can kind of do no wrong and she can do nothing. So I don't know, I'm just really curious to see where they take the relationship next, because right now I don't I was kind of looking at them in the end of the episode when he was doing that moment for her and giving her the office. I was like, this is what we need more of, because they're the married couple and we haven't seen them really interact. And Cece and Schmidt were kind of one of the couples that got me off the whole Nick and Jess like bandwagon for a little bit. I was able to forget about it because they were so adorable together.
Yes.
So.
They're so cute. Also, I mean, just side note, Schmidt to do all that for her. I mean, like, I don't know any guys who do that. Like, maybe I'm just with the wrong people. But I was like, oh my God. First, a Cubicle. I thought that was really cute, even though it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
And then second, like, the whole office, like, I was like, oh my God.
I know.
And then he had the surprise that he, like, ended up shooing away. But I was like, Schmidt.
I know. He's just totally blown me away as usual. And you know what's funny is he was actually more serious in this episode than I think I've ever seen, because I like didn't even get to take away too many quotes of what he said today. But obviously we'll get into that. But I just thought that was interesting, because usually he has like one-liners that like kind of hit me, but he was very serious on getting this going for CC, which was exciting.
Yeah.
But kind of heading into other relationships, maybe we should talk about Jess and Robbie. Robbie is back. Finally.
Again?
Yes. We haven't forgotten about him this episode, even though we have before, even though we love him. So sweet. You know, we see Jess really, really pushing the label on this one. And the whole lawsuit and the bill thing, I understand she wants to help out because it was her fault. But do you feel like her kind of asking for the bill and that whole situation with the lawsuit, like, sue me, do you think that was her trying to push him away?
I was thinking that for a while. I just think that's so Jess, though, to be that way. Like, she always wants to take everything on for herself, so it didn't surprise me that much. I just feel like Robbie likes her more. I thought that from the beginning, and I think this was such a perfect example of her, like, almost overcompensating for it in, like, such a drastic way.
Yeah.
So I'm not, like, too surprised that she did that. I'm surprised, honestly, that the difference between the original bill and the bill he gave Jess was so different.
Was so drastically different, which is funny because he's like, well, I'm rich, so I can afford it. But I mean, I understand how she was a little bit insulted too.
Yeah.
Like, you're not giving me the full scope, and which kind of leads back to their relationship. And it's like, trust is a huge thing. So he should have, entrusted in her. This is the amount it is. I understand you want to pay. Maybe I'll let you pay a portion rather than just trying to hide something.
Yeah.
Which, in the beginning stages, it is kind of uncomfortable to share a bill with your significant other that you haven't been dating for that long. But I don't know. I just felt this whole push and pull with the whole bill and lawsuit was a little bit of her pushing Robbie away, which made me kind of think about her and Nick and how I know that she seems to have moved on, but I'm wondering, since we haven't heard about it in a while, is this her racking up kind of this like emotional distress towards finally letting out her Nick feelings? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, kind of jumping ahead a little bit, I think I don't see her as infatuated with Nick as I have before, because I thought the moment that they had in the cubicle, for me at least, I didn't really see a lot of her liking him or anything. I felt like she was kind of just changed. Like, she didn't, to me, seem as like emotionally invested in Nick in a way that she has in the past.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because I kind of had two separate sides of how I was feeling during that conversation, because I felt like they were having a very mature talk about it. They were really kind of getting feelings out on the table that they haven't really talked about in a while. It was kind of, I know that it's over, but for some reason there were moments where I was wondering if they were just going to drop their drinks and start making out, honestly.
But I didn't think that. They seemed so disconnected to the emotions they were talking about, in my opinion.
Well, I understand. Yeah, like, I believe they're disconnected, but they have a weird, I don't know, their chemistry to me is just like, it's a strange kind of chemistry because it's not up front and it's not, but it's kind of like hidden.
Yeah.
And so I personally saw them just trying to go at it. And so every time they kind of had like a moment of silence or a pause, I was expecting that to happen. And it didn't, which it makes me more convinced on Nick and Reagan, which obviously we can get into that in a little bit. But yeah, I just totally I don't know. I feel as if the way that they act towards each other, this could be kind of a secret pent-up tension that could later on down in the episode unravel. I don't necessarily think it's going to be Nick and Jess, getting back together by any means, but it could just kind of throw a rock kind of in the middle of them in their friendship right now, because I feel right now that their interactions and their they've been using each other a lot for friends, like being a friend to each other, which is great. And they openly talked about how they didn't work. They don't know why. I think everybody kind of was like, they just couldn't agree on anything.
Yeah.
So, and that's something that's really special about Nick and Reagan, which we can get into it now. Every time they kind of have a fight about something, they always come to a conclusion that they both agree on. Mm-hmm. And that's something that him and Jess could never agree. But Nick and Reagan always agree. Mm-hmm. But, okay, so the start of this episode, though, their kind of ending of the fight was because Reagan was secretly trying to not read his book. Tell me your thoughts about this. So I personally was wondering about how I thought Reagan maybe, not only did she not want to read it, but I thought that Nick was trying to hide something. It seemed like he didn't want her to read it. And at first I was kind of like, is there something about Jess in there that everybody knows, but we don't? You know what I mean?
Well, I kind of took it more natural that she didn't want to read it, in the sense that she might still have a little built up like anger about the whole like 2 apartment thing, and like how that just got like figured out essentially. So I thought it was kind of like, I do that. Like if I'm angry and you kind of make up, and then like that's kind of your way, like as you're making up, to like show that you're still a little better, like, yeah, I'm not going to read your book, or like I'm not that interested. Like clearly you didn't like pick me up from the airport. I thought it was almost a little passive aggressive at first. But
that's a great way to think about it.
But Nick also, I feel like he wasn't flaunting the book really ever. Mm-mm. People they just all ended up reading it. Yeah. So again, it seemed pretty natural to me for him to do that.
To kind of just be like, it's not a big deal. You don't need to read it.
Because he's never really flaunted stuff that area of his life.
And I guess that kind of, like he was saying in the end, like it really means a lot what her thoughts are on the book. So maybe it was his way of kind of holding that back, because if she didn't like this book, it could maybe draw a strain between them. But then again, she was just like, I don't even want to listen to it anyways. But she did. But
yeah, well, and I feel like we still haven't really seen the depth of their relationship. Mm-hmm, like we continue to see a very surface level thing with them. So I think that's something that I would like to see more, and see if that plays into what we're seeing. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense. I think we do need to see more depth of the 2 of them together, because we're just kind of seeing them as kind of like we're seeing Cece and Schmidt right now. There's no progressions in any of these relationships. Obviously, even though Cece and Schmidt are married, we're not seeing like them really not struggle, but kind of grow further in the relationship. Yeah. Besides, I guess you can kind of use the whole office thing as them going forward, but kind of playing with like the whole Reagan and Nick's situation, I feel like we're seeing surface level, like you were saying, but I want to know I don't know. I just feel like we're not seeing enough emotion.
But I completely agree. But then at the same time, I feel like they're not emotional people. Yeah. So I don't expect a lot. But I want to see more like depth. The apartment thing to me was a huge thing, and it's kind of blown over. Yeah. In a sense. Apart from like this book thing maybe being a continuation of it. But they haven't really dealt with a lot of like big issues like that before.
You're so right. And this kind of brings me to a thought of how I feel as if the reason before, like, because I don't think they've ever really shown any depth in any relationship besides Cece and Schmidt a little getting married. That's the deepest we've seen in a relationship. But I'm wondering if because Jess used to always constantly date different people and be involved in different situations and dramatic scenarios, to where maybe that's usually where we see the depth, and we don't necessarily look into the relationships. But now we're only seeing everybody's in a relationship right now, which has never happened before. Because
I know.
Like, literally.
It's very weird.
And even saying that out loud seems weird. I'm like, yeah, everybody is in a relationship.
Everybody.
Even though Winston, we're still waiting on Allie. We're still waiting for her
Where
to come
are you,
back.
Allie?
Allie, we're waiting on you. But yeah, so I think it's just kind of a different thing that we're kind of, they're slowly but surely going to unravel. But I don't know. I'm just really intrigued to see where they're going to take everybody.
Me too.
Because I feel as if these could be the ones that all last.
I completely agree. I mean, and I like all of them.
Yeah.
Which I take that back.
Okay.
Jess and Robbie, I'm like 90% there. I think I was like 100% the last time I saw them together.
Yeah.
But this episode, I kind of went down to 90 because I just feel like Jess, like, she's in it, but she's not.
There's something missing for sure.
I don't know what hesitation it is. I just think she doesn't love him. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, Robbie's just too sweet. It's just like when you have something good, you're always looking for something else. I feel like Jess might be looking for somebody else, maybe, and Robbie's just kind of the one to keep her secure. And like Nick was saying, you don't deserve him. He's really sweet, and he is. I mean, he literally loves her so much. He has nothing bad to say about her. And she's like, come on, I'm crazy, I'm this. But like,
no, he's her super fan, not her boyfriend. I thought
Yeah.
that was so sweet, but
I thought it was,
I
too.
just feel like Jess isn't there for him, which makes me just really sad.
yeah. And I think it's also because Jess really hasn't had anybody that has been that obsessed with her this far. And like, she's always kind of had relationships where she's had to make a little bit of it's been a challenge. Like the doctor was a challenge. Like Sam, he was a challenge. There's so many people down the road. I can't even think of all the names of her exes right now. But yeah, it's always been kind of a struggle and not easy. So this one so far has been pretty easy. She can do no wrong.
That is a really good point to make. She's never had someone like adore her the way that Robbie does.
No,
She's always been like the adorer.
Yeah, and like chasing after them and trying to make them happy. But right now, Robbie literally is happy no matter if he's getting hit and in the hospital all the time. He always has a smile on his face. It's crazy. I know, I literally wrote, it's literally crazy because he's so sweet and he loves Jess. That's like no better way to put it. He just loves her.
And he's just so cute. Even like when he had his little windbreaker on or he was like playing guitar, I was just like, you're just so precious. I just want to like pick you up and like put you in my pocket all day.
He's endearing. Like when he picked her up and was like, I'm gonna make a romantic gesture or whatever. I was sold. I'm like, all right, Robbie, you're great. Not sure if you and Jess are gonna last, but I don't know. But I don't know what you guys think. Make sure you comment below to let us know what you're thinking about this whole Robbie and Jess situation. Do you think it's gonna last? Because at this point, I'm just kind of curious to see where it continues to go. But Nick and Reagan, I will say, I was sold at the end of this episode on their relationship. The way that they kind of came together and they were like being cutesy and communicating and saying, you know, this is why I was afraid to read it. This is why I was afraid for you to read it. I think that that's something that's so important. I think I touched on this earlier, is that their communication is something that he didn't have with Jess. So when I was watching them cuddle up, I was like, all right, again, I'm every episode, I get a better reason why I should like be on the Nick and Reagan bandwagon.
To me, it just feels so natural.
Yeah.
Just how they like interact with each other, like when they're in a room together, how they talk together, just feels like this is like what it should be.
It totally
is. Which is crazy because I feel like I haven't seen them like at all this episode.
No, and I also will say when I first saw her, like Reagan enter, I was like, oh, seriously, I don't want her here. I don't want her to get into the whole like in between them. And you guys have known, I've talked about how I really wanted Nick and Jess to work. So the fact that every episode I'm getting more and more convinced, I'm just really intrigued on seeing where the Reagan and Nick thing goes. So
Team Nick and Reagan.
yeah. Oh my goodness. We need to figure out like what's their like couple name. Nick and Nick Reagan.
Reagan.
I feel like Winston next episode needs to he's good at those kind of things. His character is good at that. Speaking of Winston, we saw him just be as silly as ever. And I thought one of my favorite parts about him this episode was the cowbells at the police. I didn't know what was happening.
Me neither. But then I put it all together because it was Cop of the Week.
Did they say that?
I think they did, or
Then
maybe I read it somewhere. But But what I thought was interesting about that is he's so goofy, yet he got rewarded for essentially not being goofy. So it was like a really interesting contrast.
Yeah.
So
I think it is funny to see his character be the most he is the most successful one, has a steady job, and that's what, like, even Schmidt was like, you guys all need to get jobs like Winston. So I just think it's crazy how silly and funny he is. He's literally the most successful one out of the group, which I just think feeds into his amazing dynamic character, and he's just hilarious.
I love him. I mean, a cop is like not an easy job. It's like not for the faint of heart, which is just so funny because I feel like if I didn't know he was a cop, I would have never pinned that as his profession.
No, definitely not. And I remember the whole thing about him becoming a cop. They all didn't take him seriously.
No.
They didn't want him. They didn't understand how it could possibly be possible. But so I guess, I mean, we've pretty much summed up everything for this episode, but maybe we should get into, did you have a favorite Schmidt quote of this episode?
I did.
Okay,
it was when Cece and Schmidt were together and they were having their modeling crisis, and Kim calls and he was like, "Hello, Kimberly, it sounds like your skin looks amazing." I was like,
I did love that.
What?
I did love that. And I love his dynamic with his work people because she kept coming back and being like, I know these people, Schmidt. They are your friends. They're all over your office. And whenever he goes into that office in the workplace, there's always funny scenes that happen because Schmidt's just great.
I would love to see him more in that environment. I know we've seen it before in the past, but I secretly craved it after the episode because I was like, oh my God, like I want to see him again and like with all the women like in the office.
Like when he went to that, what was it, the baby shower?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I kind of am missing that Schmidt a little bit.
I know. Like, he's like really changed, I feel like.
He has. And I mean, he's growing up. Maybe, I don't know. Hopefully we'll see more of the Schmitty ways. Even though he was, the past couple episodes, we have loved his random outbursts that he has. But mine was, he was like in the room, and he was like, OGCB for life, because he was the original CC's boy. And I was like, okay, love
That's
it.
a good one.
And
That's
I
a really
totally
good one.
forgot about that. So when they brought it up, I was like, yes, Schmidt, bring out those pictures. And wasn't he, because he was on like the side of like a bus or a building or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Schmidt in those modeling days. But I guess we should get into some either predictions or usually our wants of what we should want to happen next episode. So let's get to it. Should we have some predictions?
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
All right, Tessa, what are you thinking?
So I actually saw a little interview today on TV Guide with Cece, and she was joking around like, where's the baby? Where's the damn baby? And we predicted this earlier before. I think it was actually James who predicted this, but I really think there's going to be a pregnancy soon. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out in that relationship, because I do think it's going to be with Cece and Schmidt.
Yeah. Or how crazy would it be if it wasn't? But I really hope it is with them.
I do too. I think originally I predicted Jess was going to get pregnant.
You did.
I did.
Yeah.
But I changed it to Cece.
Alrighty. So that's it. So Cece getting pregnant. Alrighty. I could see that happening. I mean, really though, what else can you really, they're already married. There's something, like, it's got to happen.
Yeah.
So, and they have a house on the way. One room's done.
And at this point, Schmidt would be like the best dad because he's so involved.
So involved. With his friend's life, his wife's life, everybody's life. Okay, gotcha. My prediction, I feel like there's so much craziness happening right now with like the relationships and how progressive they're going that I don't even know I just can't even tell what's going to happen next. But I guess one of my predictions would be that Allie shows up next episode. Finally, we see some Allie back.
We have to. Where are you?
And then I'm going to throw out a random prediction of Jess is going to break up with Robbie in the next 2 episodes, and then she's randomly going to have some mysterious man come in. I don't know.
Ooh.
But then that might help her realize, I actually do like Robbie. So it might help her kind of get that push that she needs in order to like really fall for him.
I totally see that now that you say that, because I think she needs
a push
to lose Robbie to love Robbie.
But what's weird is I thought we've seen some breakthroughs before, but this episode didn't show us. It kind of did, but I feel like we're not seeing the full Jess that we know and love. So I don't know. Tell us what your thoughts are. Tell us what your predictions are for this season, and we will read and comment back to you guys. Again, make sure that you can follow us at AfterBuzz TV on Instagram, on Twitter, obviously on YouTube, and you can follow me on Twitter at Ali Nasta and on Instagram at Ali Girl. And Tessa Saval, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Tessa_Saval.
Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you next week. Thanks so much. See ya.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.